Good morning everyone. I hope you're all doing well and have had a nice week. Well, I'm currently just sitting out here in the garden enjoying the cool breeze, and I'm excited to show you around this week because there's a lot of things going on since I have seen you last. So please just sit back and relax for a few minutes and let's get stuck into it. Yesterday and this morning has been a lovely break from the hot weather we've had over this last week. Since my last garden update, I discovered this really unusual looking zinnia flower. It appears to have this rare plant condition called fasciation. This condition is where deformities occur in the plant, and when I was doing a bit of research about this, it appears that scientists don't know the exact reason why this happens, but they believe it could be due to a few reasons, one being possibly damage to the plant growing tip when it's younger, another one is just a generic mutation, even a hormonal imbalance in the plant. Look who's coming over. It's autumn. These girls love scratching around in the garden after it rains because it tends to make the ground really soft, and if we do get a heavy pour, a lot of the worms tend to come up closer to the surface so they get plenty of food to eat. Look at her going into my bed where I have some chilies. The red noodle snake beans, which were growing along the surface of this raised garden bed, have now been detangled, and I've wrapped them around these branches from a tree that I pruned back in winter time. This one in particular has really taken off. You can see how it's shot up and it's winding, wrapping itself around this branch. There doesn't seem to be anything stopping it. Support structures for climbing plants do not have to be expensive. Use what you can find around your garden or source for free. You can upcycle different materials to make trellis frames. Like this one here is really basic, just a few simple branches that work well with these beans. You can also do this for peas as well. I guess what you really need to consider is, will the structure support the weight of the crop you're producing? So while something like this is okay for the beans and peas, for example, it probably wouldn't be very strong to hold up, say, melons or little smaller varieties of pumpkins. I picked this bunch of dahlias called Bora Bora, and I'm telling you, the plant has been so generous because over the last few weeks I've cut quite a few of these. Here's one by itself just to take a closer look. And something you may not know about dahlias is that their tubers are edible. Now, I've got a couple of plants over there in the patch that's been in the ground about I think it's 3 years now at this stage, and I am thinking come autumn time when I cut the plant back, I might just dig up a little piece of the tuber and cook it up, just out of curiosity to see what it tastes like. I've grabbed myself a chopping board and a knife because I'm heading now into the fan garden where there is a beauty of an heirloom tomato which I'm going to harvest and cut open. Just here in the protection of this grow bag is a tomato variety called Berkeley Pink Tie-Dye. You can see this one has a really interesting looking skin. It has these pinkish reddish stripes. It almost to me looks metallic. These tomatoes can get much larger than this one that I've grown. It's actually a beefsteak, and they have been known to reach the weight of about 340 grams, which I think is around 12 ounces. The smell in the air just as I was slicing this tomato open was making my mouth salivate. That tasted really good. It was sweet, packed full of flavour, and I have to say I did get a bit of a acidic taste to it as well. While there are a lot of other heirloom tomatoes growing here in the fan garden, this particular one looks the most promising for producing the biggest tomatoes. Like this one here is as big as the palm of my hand. These are called Brandywine Red, and I will be excited when I pick these and see how much that one there in particular weighs. And while I just showed you the largest tomatoes, here on this little plant are the smallest ones I'm growing. They are just starting to ripen up, not quite there yet, but I'll pick this one off to show you the size. This one is called Orange Currant. Like, look at this, little and large. And this is exactly why I love growing tomatoes, because there is such a range in sizes, shapes, textures, flavors, you name it. It's just such a fun, interesting crop to grow during the warmer months. I'm down here in the chicken run area to show you what amazing stuff I have in this compost bin. In here is where I put a lot of the chicken manure. This is rich with nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium to feed your plants. The only thing you need to make sure is that it's well rotted down before use. That is because it does have the potential to burn your plants if it's too fresh. You also need to be careful not to use too much of this in your garden beds because it can affect the soil pH. Here's the first flower opened up on the Aster California Giant. Its stem is so long. I'm actually really surprised that it's this long and it feels very sturdy. These will make great addition to a cut flower arrangement. It's still too early to tell what colour these flowers will be, but it's looking like on this plant they could possibly be pink. Down here through that far archway is not the prettiest sight, but I have been working in that area and I want to give you a little update. It's looking pretty neglected, but I can say that the soil in this section is really good quality. I've been building it up over the last couple of years, so I was more than comfortable to put in some more seedlings. I just wanted to get them all into the ground. So I have my second round of summer crops like cucumbers, zucchinis, and I am pushing it a little bit. I've also put in some melons in here, as well as a variety of gourd too. I'm just going to give it a go, but I do need to come in here and mulch this ground, fix up a trellis I'm making. There's a lot of work to do in here. I was hoping to have more done to show you this week, but it's just a work in progress. Hopefully by next week it will look much more attractive and a more enjoyable area to be in than it does right now. What I just showed you is a really good example of how I'm able to achieve this garden by myself without any help. I mean, my kids do help out occasionally, but I just have to prioritize certain jobs. So for example, what I just showed you then, yes, the trellis hasn't been finished, but I know the plants that need the trellis won't be at a stage to start climbing up it for at least a couple more weeks. And the ground cover that I put in as well, those plants won't have reached the area that needs to be weeded for probably about 3 weeks. So I have a bit of time to do that job. The most important thing for me was to get those plants in the ground to try and maximize the growing season. If I had waited for that area to be perfect, I may have had to delay putting those plants in the ground for another few weeks. And at this stage in the middle of summer, a few weeks can make a huge difference when we aren't quite sure when the frost will arrive in autumn time. This area over by the side gate has had a bit of a tidy up. I can now see the back wooden fence again. It's no longer covered in passion fruit vines. There's a lot more flowers on the zinnia plants. There's some self-seeded cosmos plants. I tend to get a lot in this area of the garden. There was one year where it was just like a sea of floating flowers. I don't seem to have as many plants this year, but you can see there's a few over there near the back fence. The mass display of fennel flowers are starting to go over now. You can see there's some seed pods forming. Actually, there are a few of them that have already dried out and appear to have dropped some of their seeds. So I might get some fennel in this area. And look, more of these passion fruit suckers. Oh my goodness, they're just everywhere in this section. I don't think I've shown you this already. If I have, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I really want to fit this in because I want to make sure that it's recorded that when I was tidying this section, I found a kiwana vine over here, which I just removed the weeds, mostly grass from around it, and allowed it to kind of climb up this pole. And it's pretty exciting because this one is way more advanced than the other two that I have over in a different section of the garden. I'm pretty pleased to have found this larger one here. It may just mean that I get a harvest a little bit sooner than expected. We've reached that time of the week where I'm going to have to say goodbye until next Friday. Quickly, I just cannot get over how much this section has grown since I first started recording these videos over 2 years ago. These plants were only about 1 meter tall, and now look at it, I can hardly see most of our house from this view. Stay safe everyone, take care, and thank you so much for watching.